Welcome to JP's Full Throttle,
Hello and
where he
welcome
interviews
to
professionals across motorsports.
Wednesday
Please
night
like,
edition
comment,
of
and
Full
subscribe.
Throttle.
Here is our host,
Tonight we
Justin.
are turning left and right on Full Throttle because we got a driver, a king owner, and myself all chatting about road course racing. We have Garrett on the bottom and Thomas next to me on top. How you fellas doing tonight?
Good, good. Thanks for having us.
Doing great, thank you.
So, my first question is for Garrett. So, what does it mean to you to be the driver and racing for Thomas up there?
Well, it's a tremendous honor to be able to race with people who are all about what I'm about. I think it's anytime you're afforded an opportunity to join with anyone with like goals and morals and values, I think it's a good day. But especially when you get to get behind the wheel of a race car and go after your goals, it's really special. And I think that's what we have here with Thomas and our team that races in the TA2 series.
So, Thomas, talk, talk to me basically the same question. Uh, what does it mean for you to have Garrett down here, racing for you, and how's your relationship?
Well, it's always good to have a driver that's focused on goals that meet your own. Jared's very pliable, learns rapidly, and he's got a big drive and a big heart to succeed. Sometimes it's a little too big, but we're working on that. Yeah, it's really important to be able to gel as a unit and work as one.
So, talk to me, both of you, about when you say work as one, um, Garrett, define work as one, um, in your opinion, please. What does that look like from the driver's seat? How much faith do you have in Thomas and the cards that he gives you and everything like that?
Yeah, well, I think working as one is all based in communication, all right? And it's communicating what the goals are and whether it's me as a driver and what the car needs and what my deficits are as a driver and being open and honest about that so that we could try to wrench a car into the best position as possible to supplement the way that I drive and then for me to do the same thing to the car that we have. There's been plenty of times out there where, I've been on the headset, whether talking gently or loudly into the headset to Thomas, like, man, this, tires went, or, I've got no front end downforce. I can't turn at this turn. And there's been, times where he's had to straight up tell me, like, you got to drive the car that you have, you got to drive the car that you got. And then even by the communicating back and forth about what we need to do to be faster at a specific track for qualifying, because I think that's one of the big goals that for me this year is to qualify better because I've historically raced really well. So it's coming down to communicating, and a lot of that's on me because I'm so new to racing and finding the words to say what I would need inside the car, and then communicating that to Thomas, and then Thomas doing that back to me while I'm out there on track.
And Thomas, how much growth have you seen in him this year? And for Garrett, how 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 many years of racing have you had before you met Thomas?
Yeah, Jared's come a long way this year already. This is our first year together, and it's his second year in the Trans Am 2 series. So it's a nail biter, elbow fighting, bumper banging series, and it's tough. And it's tough for new drivers to adapt. And I think Jared, with his background, has adapted quite quickly to this environment. He's got a lot of fire in him to succeed, and he's doing well doing that.
Yeah, and I always appreciate, hearing that from Thomas or from anybody else, but especially from Thomas and working with him this year, obviously, like he said, is it's my first year, and but this is my fourth year ever on a track. So my first year, I drove only competition. I've never really done track days like leading up to competition. The first time on track was it was at racing school in order for me to get my competition license and get my permit. So I jumped right into competition because competition's very familiar to me. As I played professional football for a while and obviously collegiate football before that, and done a ton of other sports, whether that's baseball, basketball, shot put, and even soccer when I was younger. So my lifestyle is competition and sports and athletics, and so but this is only my fourth year ever doing what they call the motorsports versus the stick and ball sports.
Yeah, so I want I want to jump up and talk about your stick and ball sport career. How did you get out of football and into racing and find Thomas?
Well, oh, you just put us in the dust there, man. Guy came by with a big exhaust. I so how I found Thomas and how I got into racing. So the first thing is how I got into racing, and um during the what I call the world event that happened during 2020, 2021, when people weren't eating inside or wearing masks and doing all the stuff that we did back then, I was kind of roaming around the country, if you will. I was done with football in 2017, and then I took a few years to re-educate myself in a few different ways. And while I was doing that, I was traveling across the country and I ended up visiting a family friend who I call Uncle Ed. And Uncle Ed uh, invited me to one of his races out at High Plains Raceway in Colorado. And I uh, I said, oh, you race, so that's cool. And he's an in shape guy, so I thought he meant like running. And I'm like, I'm not about to go watch this guy do some long distance run. And he's like, no, no, I race Miata. And at the time, I was driving a car that I had bought while I was playing professional football, which was a Porsche Turbo S. And I pulled up to his property with that, and he showed me his race car, and he uncovered a brown 1999 Miata. And I said, "What is this? This isn't a race car." I had no idea. And so he's like, "No, I'm serious, Shared. This is my race car, and we race really hard." And I said, okay, now I'm interested. I got to see this. And so I went to High Plains Raceway and I witnessed a group of men, probably about 20 some odd cars racing a spec Miata race. And I just had no idea that there were men that didn't either grow up in racing or weren't professional race car drivers that could drive this competitively on a track, on a real deal track, not some go-kart track at the local batting cages, but a real deal track. And I couldn't believe it. And like I said, I was re-educating myself after football. It took about 5 years. And in those 5 years, and when I got to that track, I realized, man, competition is missing from my life. This is what's missing. I got into the arts, studying abroad, doing some writing classes. I got into a lot of pen and pencil sketching. A lot of the education that I feel that I didn't have during my football career. And lo and behold, here came racing, and it reintroduced competition into my life. And I recognize how important it is to my core to be able to compete against other people who want to do the same. And so then, yeah, so then I continued doing that. And how I met Thomas was staying in that course where It was an SCCA race that I witnessed, and then I went to go get my SCCA license. And the first year I was in a car on track, I was able to qualify for the runoffs, the SCCA runoffs in 2022. I didn't do so well, finished 12th in my class, but I guess considering for my first year, it was pretty decent. It was pretty good. But then the second year in the same car, I was racing a Porsche 991.2 Cup car. And that's when I met Thomas. I met Thomas on the circuit when I was battling against Barry Bowes, who was driving a TA2 car, who still runs with TRB and with Thomas. And so, yeah, I met them at the track. We battled it out for the 2023 SCCA GT2 championship. I was very fortunate to end up on top that day, but ever since then, I said, you know what, I got to get in one of those TA2 cars, and that's when I met Troy and Thomas, and they started whispering in my ear about a TA2 car, and I had to go that way.
And for you, Thomas, what does it take to be a car owner at this level? I mean, obviously, you got Garrett down there as your driver, and basically, I know in NASCAR, it takes a lot of commitment from a driver to basically a commitment from a car owner and a driver could say, you're a good fit for my car. What makes Thomas a good fit for your program? I mean, Garrett, sorry.
Well, we run a slightly different program than the usual. If you want to call it an arrive and drive or like a NASCAR, they got paid drivers. In lower series, there's drivers that pay to rent their seats. In our business model, our drivers are car owners. So Jared owns his car that I work on, and we handle all the logistics for him, the trucking and the shop and the work at the shop and people at the track and stuff of that nature. So we have a very large infrastructure that we work with. So it's unique. It's a unique style. We're one of the only teams in Trans Am that does that. Most of the teams in Trans Am are more similar to the NASCAR setup where people, rent your car and they pay a fee, and some rent from time to time, some rent a season's worth. It all depends on, their budgets and how they fit with the team and stuff like that. But we're just a slightly different where Jared's not our only driver. He's our full-time driver that we race with for the entire series. But our next race at Mid-Ohio will have 3 cars in our paddock, and all 3 drivers own their own cars. We just provide the track support and the transportation, logistics, and stuff to get them there and support them at the track.
Yeah, so for you, Garrett, what does it mean to you to have Thomas support for your racing career, even though it's young?
Yeah, well, it means the world because with somebody who has so much experience, whether it's him or anybody else on the team, it's way more than what I have. And so, I'm always trying to soak in as much as possible and take in perspectives that will kind of meld and mold into mine. And so, I'm taking a lot of time to keep my ears open and find and basically kind of graft what different people say and find out the things that they say that are the same. So when you hear a bunch of people say the same thing, well, then that must mean I should be paying attention to it even more so. And so having Thomas's experience is really adding a lot, especially with this car and with this chassis. We're running an M1 chassis, which is a specific chassis that Thomas has worked with before with previous clients and previous drivers, where I was kind of coming in blind to it this year. But I thought it would be a good choice because there are some drivers like Barry Bowes that I'm kind of following a pattern of his to try to get on a similar developmental track. And Thomas and an M1 chassis are on that developmental track. So I kind of picked up a few things and I said, well, hey, I might need to buy one of these cars and use some of Thomas's experience with this type of chassis and with this type of car in order for me to get better.
So, Thomas, so to build off what he said, uh, what what does it mean to you to hear that coming out of him, that he's grateful to you for working so hard to give him the best race car you can?
Oh, well, it's always wonderful to hear that the drivers appreciate the time and the effort that we take outside of being at the racetrack in order to be at the racetrack. Right now, we were unfortunate to have a little mishap at our last race last weekend, so we're very busy at the shop right now rebuilding Jared's car, but we'll have it ready for the next race in 6 days. We'll be loaded up and headed out. But I do appreciate drivers that understand that, I don't come back to the shop and change your oil and wax your car. We are 3 guys strong on this car right now to get it ready. And that's a lot of man hours putting in to the program. So when drivers realize that, and he speaks of Barry Bowes, who is another driver that I've ran for a couple of years. And Barry is also, one of those guys that appreciates the long hours that we will put in and the sacrifices we make. Like, I don't see my home. I work on Jared's car 4 hours away from home, so I don't see home. I don't see my wife. I don't see nothing. I see the shop, Jared's race car, and my pillow. That's what I see every day.
Wow. And to copy off what Thomas had said, Garrett, what does it mean to you to have that commitment from a car that eats, sleeps, and breathes racing?
Yeah, no, I think that's the type of commitment that helps win championships. Across the board in different sports, you see people who have opportunities to really fully commit to the sport that they're in and really live in it, and what they're doing. When it's not just a profession or a job, but a lifestyle. And to be frank with you, what ended up happening in my professional football career was when I started falling off in terms of putting in the extra work and I started thinking about other things or different ways to compete or different ways to express myself or different things to explore, that's when football really fell off for me, both in my play, but also just, in being able to be dedicated to it and knowing that I'm going to be a good teammate for my teammates, because of how dedicated I am. I spent a lot of years dedicated, 17 years dedicated to football. And that final year, I started realizing, there's some things that I wanted to do elsewhere. And I couldn't afford telling the guy next to me that I got his back if I was second guessing myself. And so I think that was one sign for me to move on. But I think with the type of commitment that Thomas has and all the other people that we've been working with this year, it's inspiring, and I think it's what wins championships, and that's what we're after. So, I think for me, it's finding ways that in my racing youth, that I can inspire the same type of commitment. And for me, that's studying as much film as possible that's available on YouTube of other fast drivers. And then obviously there's always an option of paying for other people's film and data so you can study that as well. Um, and it's me getting on the sim racer. It's me trying to find funding and rides elsewhere that would allow me to get experience. So, I think I didn't know that 4 years ago that racing would take over my life in the same way, where I would be thinking about it when I wake up, thinking about it when I go to sleep, and not watching nearly as many TVs or movie or hanging out with friends or anything because I'm either on the sim or trying to find a way to get to a track. So I think the commitment is contagious, is I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and Thomas, when you look at Garrett, what type of commitment do you see from him in your cards that says, I made the right decision? He's a great guy. You both appear to love working together and to wrap up the show, I just have one final question for both of you, and that is what what would you say to guys who want to get into road course racing? Thomas, we'll start with you. What would you say if you want to get into road course racing, but you don't know how to do it? What would you tell someone?
Well, it depends on the level of person we're talking about. We work with a lot of young kids that they started in karting to begin with. We work with a lot of older professionals that work their butt off to earn enough money that they can now come and play. I always advise, try an autocross, see how you like it. It's not for everybody, but if you like that, start doing some what they call high performance driving events and start working towards your licensing to go road racing. Or if you want to try some, get a little experience and want to try some competition racing prior to getting licensing or whatever, there's a few amateur endurance racing series where you get a buttload of seat time. It's an experience like no other. I think that's another good avenue to get familiar with road racing before jumping in, real deep into the pool like we are with Jared right now. That's a deep end pool. There's a lot of work that goes in. Jared puts a lot of work in to be competitive. It's his nature. He's got a certain way he studies that's different than most people I've ever worked with, which is great. But if you want to get started, there's options. Like I said, the high performance driving events and amateur endurance racing will get you some seat time.
And for you, what's the biggest advice that you could give, Garrett?
I'd say, in a similar vein, find the level that you're at and find a car, find a team and a mentor that can commit to you and you can commit to it. Whether that's the team, the mentor, or the car, and finding a level in which you can really commit. I think that's the biggest thing, is finding a space in which you can really devote yourself to all three of those things and more. Um, I'd say it's, if it's a spec Miata, it's a spec Miata. If it's karting, it's karting. If it's a TA2 car, it's a TA2 car. If it's your street car that you take to HPDEs and high performance driving experiences and track days, then that's what it is. But you have to find a way that you can commit and find consistent learning opportunities. Because without the consistent learning opportunities, things just won't move for you. You'll probably have less fun, or you'll probably have a lot more self-doubt if you can't find consistency. So find a level at which you can be on track multiple times a year, multiple times a month even, and really, go full send into it.
All right. Thank you both for coming on Full Throttle. This has been a workhorse edition of Full Throttle. We'll see you next time when we're back to oval racing. Goodbye, everyone.
Thank you.